What is the point of having a great TV if you don't have anything to play on it? That's why today I'm going to be reviewing Mortal Kombat 1, even though we've already had quite a few Mortal Kombats. But either way, we're going to see if this is worth it or not. So smack a like on this video because it is worth it. There you go. We just spat it out. It's really not that hard when we do these review videos to tell you within the first 30 seconds if it's a good game or not. Now, in this video, you can expect me to talk about the story pacing, the DLC plans, and things of that nature, gameplay mechanics, all that good stuff. So if you like this kind of thing, subscribe, smack a like on this video, and let's get right to it. So the story pacing is actually really damn good, with the best cinematics I think I've ever seen out of any fighting game ever. It plays like a CGI movie, like what we would see at like E3 and like a cinematic showcase trailer where it's not actual gameplay or in-game cutscenes at all. And it actually in-game plays like that as far as the visual aspect of it. Very, very nice, very pristine, very clean. Another thing that I really like is how immersive and well written the story is, to where like you wouldn't think that it goes, but they do a good job of picking up from the last story where Liu Kang took over for Raiden and basically building off of that. And the little twists and turns here, like every which way, it just makes it really, really enjoyable. And I'm telling you, it really is a treat to enjoy, especially when you're watching it on a great TV. All the colors and the lighting that they chose for the game, it's just 10 out of 10 as far as graphics go. Now let's talk some of the mechanics of the game, okay? So this year they have cameo characters, and these are unplayable characters, which is where we hit our first negative point. The unplayable characters are OG characters that everybody would have wanted to play, like Motaro, Goro, Sonya Blade, Jax, and the list goes on. Frost, Sector, Cyrax. Like, why these characters are not playable, beyond me. I'm all for introducing new characters, and I'm all for trying to build something new, but if you're going to go the route of MK1 and say we're resetting the whole universe, would it really have killed them to add those characters into the game day one? I don't think so. Hopefully they do later down the road, because if they just lock those models to cameo, it's a waste, because they've created the models, there's clearly some sort of move set going on there, and we can't access any of that stuff. So that's the part where it gets a little annoying for us, because it's like when we're dealing with all of the irritating aspects of not being able to play those characters, that's where it gets a little bit annoying. Now, the other aspect that we're going to talk about is going to be the download time. You're going to be waiting for a little bit. It comes in at, I think, a little over 96 gigs. Just round up and say 97. So you'll be sitting there waiting before you get to it. But it's a little stripped down, I will say, comparatively from last year. So last year, when you go into customizing your characters, you had loadouts, and you could have multiple loadouts of different character variations to swap out and swap in and swap out. This year, you just kind of change the gear around however you want, but there's not like multiple loadouts. And if there are, I certainly haven't found them, which is really disappointing that they don't have that this year. The other thing that's kind of disappointing this year is just kind of the general idea that you have less modes, right? So we had all kinds of different variations of the towers that we had. You had the auto AI fight, where we don't have that anymore. So now you have to kind of grind through the towers and do it manually. We used to have the crypt where you could go and run around and kind of like an adventure-esque mode, and now it's more like a board game, really, where you're just running on a plot through the general area and trying to beat the bosses, or not bosses, but beat the characters and then go on to your next objective. It's a waste of time. At least it feels like it to me. I would have liked more freedom, and I think that's really what it is. It's more restrictive. Now, as far as the cameo characters go, that's also one of the mechanics I don't really like this year, because again, you can't add those characters and play whoever you want. And cameo characters are just kind of like, I don't know, it just seems kind of gimmicky, if I'm being honest with you, because it feels more restrictive. It doesn't feel like we're totally free to do whatever we want with the game. Now, it doesn't mean that it's bad. The gameplay is awesome when you get into it with certain characters. You can definitely get some really exciting combos. There are really high execution characters where you can do some really crazy combos. But it does feel a lot more clunky or stiff than what we had last year with MK11, where that just kind of played a little bit more like butter when you're knocking out some of these combos. It just felt good to hit a combo. It doesn't mean that you can't have combos that feel good here, but because they added an air combo mechanic this year, it just gets a little bit more complicated in a bad way. Like, it's not fluid anymore, where things just felt more zippy in the last game. This is definitely more like, it's more like cat and mouse, right? It's like tit for tat, they get a hit, you get a hit. In the interest of a fighting game, I guess that's more fair, but the characters definitely feel slower. Not every character will feel slow. Some characters feel fast, like Lee May, Reptile. They feel really fast to play, but not every character has this general feel, which is normal in fighting games, but it is something to mention. Now, as far as the overall options that you do have, as far as graphics and customizations and things like that, I'm on PC, and you do have a whole litany of options that you can select. You can go through pretty much everything like we're used to on PC, which is good, so we're not really neutered in that way, but they did take away some of the options that we would have had before on PC, which I, again, just don't like. When you're setting up graphics on PC, you basically, let's say you want to use DLSS, right? Well, you're limited to a rendering resolution that is lower than the native resolution that you've selected for your refresh rate of your monitor or your television. And that means that you're basically going to be playing, again, like an upscaled version that doesn't look as nice. And that's the part that really does suck. I wish they would have let you have a rendering resolution of, like, let's say 1440p and a refresh rate of 1440p when you're using something like DLSS, but that just does not happen. So again, that's the unfortunate part about it. I don't really like that aspect, but it is what it is there. Because last year we were able to use DLSS and AMD's variation of that technology, and we were able to have the refresh rate match again with the gameplay perfectly. It was all in sync, and this year just doesn't have that feel. Now, again, the most important thing is, though, is it a fun game to play? And the answer is obviously unequivocally yes. Some good heavy hitters came back. Ashura came back. Smoke came back. Natira came back. We have some great characters that really flesh out the game and really give you a fun experience. But there are areas roster-wise where it just feels a little barren and a little rushed because, again, we are missing the cornerstone pieces like Goro and again, Sonya Blade and Jax. And I feel like that was a massive omission that upset a lot of fans, myself included, especially because I'm a day one Mortal Kombat fan. Talking about being a young kid playing it in the, laundromat on the little machines there. Like, you go into arcades growing up, playing it on the machines there. Like, everywhere in the 90s, really, right? And it's really annoying to see they're kind of scaling back on that. So that's one of the things that really not so great, but it is a wonderful cinematic experience for sure. Now, again, there are people that don't like that. They feel like video games should be played and it should not be an interactive movie. I think it's nice, though, because I do enjoy more of the cinematics feeling when you are in story mode. But as far as the overall modes and the lack of freedom like we had in the last one, like, you had so many different kinds of towers and options, and that has been scaled back on. And the biggest omission, again, is the loadouts and the cameo characters not being playable. I think that really does hurt this game, but visually it's great. I think this is a wonderful pickup, though, even still, if you are remotely even a fan of Mortal Kombat, and even if you're not, it's still a good experience because you can just jump right in and just kind of follow the story, because they do a good job of laying out the story more or less. When you open up the game, even, like, every time it'll tell you basically the premise of the game. So it's not like you have to start from zero and understand the last game to purchase this game and dive in. So that's a nice aspect of it, too. You have all kinds of difficulty options from very easy all the way up to very hard. So everybody is covered in that aspect. And of course, when you go on ranked, you're going to go up against absolute monsters. You're going to have people that rage quit. You're going to have people that are good, bad. It's good, but they have a lot of adding on to do. And I feel like that's the final part of this video. This game will likely be heavy with the DLC like last game. And I feel like the last game really set the precedent for like a lot of DLC being normal, which is why our roster now is really limited feeling. I feel like they're going to come out with a host of other characters, but even like their DLC pack, like, do I really need Outlander? No, I don't care about that character. You could have given me like Sonya Blade as a playable character or somebody we actually really wanted, like Sector and Cyrax. We've been singing that forever and they're just not listening. And I think that's the part that's annoying. So as far as the game overall, I think it's a great game. It does a lot to be fun. Again, I think if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, definitely check it out, and it will help you take advantage of the wonderful TVs that you bought. Even if your TV's not that great, it'll still make it look good because of how wonderful the visuals are, and it does play well.